welcome to another episode of the Peru Channel Podcast. I'm your host, Philip, and today I'm going to talk about why you should start planning next year's trip to Machu Picchu right now. Don't wait around and put it off because I promise doing so could completely change your plans. It happened this past year for hundreds, maybe thousands of people. And at the end of this episode, I'm going to talk to you about what's happening at Machu Picchu right now. If you listened to my last podcast and have been keeping up with my news updates on the PeruChannel.com website, then you know it has been, to say the least, a serious crisis for tourists. Fortunately, the bottom line is that for now, the crisis is over and things are calm again. But the potential for problems at the start of next year are very real. I've been thinking about doing a topic on preparing early for a few weeks now, but a few days ago I saw a post by the Ministry of Culture listing when openings for the famous Inca Trail to Machu Picchu are available for 2026. The first slots for January, by the way, opened yesterday, October 1st. That reminded me that anyone planning a trek on the Inca Trail must make their reservations very early as tickets disappear extremely fast, weeks if not months in advance. Only 500 people a day are allowed on the trail, and that includes guides, porters, cooks, and every single person in your party. That means that there are only a few tourists actually on the trail at any given time, and the demand is very, very high. Keep in mind that you must go with a licensed guide on the Inca Trail. No one is allowed past the checkpoint at the Kilometer 82 bridge across the river to start the trek without one. Period. There are always other options, including the famous Salcantay hike, which is equally spectacular and considerably cheaper. You can also do this trek completely on your own, but signing up with an agency can usually be done a few days in advance once you're in Cusco. For the Inca Trail trek, you need to make your reservations with a licensed agency. I used to recommend 3, but that list is down to 2 since I heard multiple guides from one of the agencies repeatedly sharing misinformation to their groups at Machu Picchu a few weeks ago. If the guides are either uneducated or dishonest, there's no way anyone should use them, and that I found was the case with not one but 2 different guides from the same agency. I've heard nothing but good things from Alpaca Expeditions and Machu Picchu reservations. My interaction with both of them have been tangential, but I've always been impressed by the professionalism of both, especially Alpaca Expeditions, though I think both would be an excellent choice. I'm sure there are other good agencies and guides, but these 2 are the ones which I'm confident in recommending based on conversations with many clients and with my interactions with the agencies themselves, especially interactions in and around Machu Picchu. I've got a link to both of their websites or links to both of their websites on the show notes page. One thing to be aware of is be very careful when asking for recommendations on social media, as I have seen employees of some agencies posing as regular people. They make glowing and very detailed recommendations about a company, making it sound like they were a client, when in fact they're employees. I think this probably happens even more than I'm aware of, but I know for a fact that it does happen. One thing to remember is that the trail is closed during the entire month of February for maintenance. As it is also the height of the rainy season, the conditions are usually not very good anyway. This past season, the trail remained closed all the way through March as there was so much damage done by landslides caused by rain that a lot of additional trail reconstruction had to be done before it was safe to travel. If you're just planning a trip to Machu Picchu, tickets should also be purchased at least 2 to 3 months in advance. Not as long as the Inca Trail, but still significantly before your trip. If you wait too long and finally lock in your travel dates, only to discover that there are no tickets available for Machu Picchu, there's always the option of going the day before. As of right now, there's a possibility of purchasing a ticket in Aguas Calientes for the following day, but you have to go to the cultural center right next to the Plaza de Armas. You may have to stand in line. In fact, that's a very good possibility, and probably that line could be much, much longer than it was when I went a few weeks ago, especially when it's a time when Peruvians are on holiday. Then you have to present your document, which for probably most of the people listening is your passport. and that info is recorded into the system, and then you go to a window where you can select which ticket or tickets that you want. I promise this sounds complicated, but it's really not that bad at all. They will be able to share with you in real time what's available and for what time slots. Early morning times tend to go early because most people, or a lot of people, have train tickets to return to Cusco after they've spent their time in Machu Picchu. The process can be very easy or it can take a long time. I purchased tickets a couple of times in the past month or two and was shocked at how almost no one was there. But I also went at a time when Peruvians themselves, who are famous for putting off buying tickets until they arrive, when Peruvians are not on vacation, so it was almost all tourists and foreigners. There have been many reports just a few weeks before and all this year about lines taking hours, and there was a good chance that tickets would still be sold out by the time you got there. Many people reported having to stay 2 to 3 days just to actually get a ticket, and I think for most of you, that's something you absolutely want to avoid, especially when you can buy your tickets easily online before. Also, keep in mind that you're only allowed to buy a single ticket for the following day for each person in your group or family. In the past, I've occasionally bought a morning ticket and then a ticket to return in the afternoon, but that's not possible at the last minute now. Okay, what about train transportation to Machu Picchu? Fortunately, that's not going to be a problem. I'm not sure I'd recommend waiting to buy a train ticket the day before, but if you did, odds are that you'd be able to get a ticket for either of the two railroad companies, Peru Rail and Inca Rail, though your options might be limited and you might not be able to get a time slot or a coach that you want. Once you've set your date or dates, go ahead and buy your train ticket online. There are lots of options which likely sound a lot more complicated than they really are. While both companies have excellent websites showing an unbelievable amount of options, most of these are just different time slots. Each company really has only a few coach options available. Peru Rail is the only one that allows you to take a train all the way from Cusco to Machu Picchu. They offer trains leaving from the San Pedro station that go all the way, and if you can work with their schedules, this is by far the best trip because not only of the convenience, but because the scenery throughout is spectacular. While going straight from Cusco to Machu Picchu with a quick stop in Ollantaytambo to pick up more passengers may cost a little more, it's the one upgrade that I can easily recommend, and it's worth the minimal expense. There is a small problem on the return if you want to come back with Peru Rail all the way, is that they simply don't bring you all the way to Cusco. The closest endpoint that they come on the train is a station in the town of Paroy, where you have to take a 30-minute bus ride back to the Huanchac station in Cusco. It's really not a big deal as the bus ride goes fast, the buses are comfortable. Huanchac itself is not near the San Pedro station where you originally left if you went that way, but there are always taxis outside waiting to take you anywhere you want to go in the city. Yeah, they're going to charge gringo prices, but it's usually only a few soles more than they're sometimes charged. And you have to keep in mind that sometimes there are dishonest taxis that charge 3 to 4 times the normal price. So I would recommend you talk to more than one taxi driver to get the best deal that you can. Inca Rail's departures in Cusco are all from their office in Avenida El Sol. These are called bimodal trips and involve a bus to the town of Ollantaytambo, nearly 2 hours away, and then the actual train ride that lasts about an hour and a half or maybe a little longer. Peru Rail also has bimodal options leaving from their station in Huanchac. Both services from both companies could involve either a real bus or a shared van. I've taken both with both companies at different times, though Peru Rail almost always tends to use real buses. All of the transportation is very comfortable and the drivers are excellent, which means you won't be speeding and they won't be driving dangerously, as can be the case with normal public transportation. You can just relax, look out the window, or maybe even take a nap if you left early in the morning. Most trips involve a 5-minute restroom stop somewhere along the way where you can walk a bit and, depending on the time, to make a quick snack purchase. Sometimes the very early morning trips are nonstop, so make sure that you visit the restroom before leaving. I promise you that is a priority. For both train companies, upon arrival at the station in Ollantaytambo, you have to walk downhill about 150 meters to actually enter the station. There are lots of little stalls along the sidewalk to buy anything that you might have forgotten, like sunscreen or insect repellent, or just a snack for the train. Tourists aren't even checked as you walk past security in Ollantaytambo, as long as you're going in with the group. Though in Aguascalientes, you will need to show your ticket and your ID. Probably, again, that's going to be your passport to enter the station. Trust me, it's quick and easy, as they're really not paying much attention anyway. Inside the Ollantaytambo station, there's a very small waiting room with some of the cleanest restrooms in Peru. At least the men's restroom is that way, as it's constantly attended. Depending on the weather, there's also a covered outdoor waiting area that's very comfortable and spacious and is a great place to sit and relax. There's a small shop where you can get coffee and pastries. If you go there in the morning or afternoon, do me a favor and say hello to my friend Beto, who's usually working the counter. I don't know about the coffee. I've only gotten it once, and it was okay. I'm not a coffee connoisseur. But I promise the pastries are great, and I always buy something there for my friends in Aguascalientes. Usually I get them brownies, which they just go crazy over. Return trips using bimodal services are basically the same thing you did before, but in reverse. You get off the train and walk back up to the company offices on the right where transportation is waiting. It's easy, and they help you all the way. You can go as a group, and I promise you won't get lost and you won't get left behind. Both companies have options only between Ollantaytambo and Machu Picchu. That means you can spend the night in Ollanta. That's what we locals call the town, which, by the way, is a great place to visit the day before. And then in the morning, you can just catch a train to Machu Picchu. All of these departures may sound confusing, but they're really easy if you understand that you just focus on one segment at a time, since you have the option of mixing and matching however you want to travel. Start with choosing where you want to begin, either Cusco or Ollantaytambo. Then find the time you want to depart, and then check out the train options, which I'll talk about next. Once you're done, you just repeat that for your return trip. The great thing is that every option can be mix and match each way, giving you plenty of possibilities if you want to try one coach one way and another on the return trip. Choosing which actual train car or coach certainly can be confusing, and the companies aren't really helpful on their websites in being honest about what each option is like, though they do tell you if there are things like snacks or, what else? Or a show. The shows don't impress me a whole lot, but I know most people enjoy them. Sometimes snacks are available for sale, especially on the basic cars, and that's also at a very high price, and sometimes they're included with the price of the ticket. To be honest, I think you'll be happy with the cheapest train cars that each company offers. I've ridden on every car that they both have except for Inca Rail's prime and first class coaches, and certainly haven't ridden the $1,000 Hiram Bingham round trip. I just don't see the need for spending the money on an hour and a half train ride under any circumstances. Peru Rail's cheapest option is called the Explorer. The next option that they have is the Vista Dome, which is basically all the same, except the windows are slightly larger and there are some minor amenities along the way, which I don't think come close to being worth the significantly increased ticket price. Most seats are in groups of 4 with a table between 2 seats that face each other. But there are a handful of tables with only 2 seats that face the back of the seats in front of them. This is good for couples who don't want to be looking at strangers, though I promise the train ride is a great way to meet people. I can't tell you how many wonderful people I've met traveling back and forth over the years. Inca Rail's basic train is called the Voyager, and it compares almost the same to Peru Rail's Explorer and Vista Dome trains. Not much difference at all. Each company has 2 options that you might want to consider because they offer the opportunity to experience either an open balcony, such as on Peru Rail's observatory car, or open windows on both sides on Inca Rail's 360-degree car. Both of these are very interesting and they have advantages, but each also has some significant disadvantages. For Peru Rail's observation car, you have the option of taking it either from the San Pedro station or from the Ollantaytambo station. The scenery from both is going to be spectacular, but keep in mind that you do not get to stay in the observatory car the entire trip. Both companies segment your time depending on how many regular seating cars are attached. With no more than 3 additional cars, each car on the observatory train is usually allowed 30 minutes to experience the observatory car between Cusco and Ollantaytambo, and then once again for 30 minutes on the next segment between Ollantaytambo to Aguascalientes. One good thing is Peru Rail's car is very long. The front section has really nice comfortable seating, a bar, live music. The back section, however, has a bench, seating in the middle with windows along both sides, but the prime spot is the open balcony off the back of the car. It's always located at the end of the train going to Machu Picchu, so the views are spectacular with no other train cars following. Sadly, as it's only as wide as the rail car and provides little room for anyone to do much except take photos, then allow someone else to come take your place, with nearly 50 people sharing it in 30 minutes, you can imagine that your time is not going to be very long. The one thing that I absolutely do not recommend is taking the observatory car on your return trip to Ollantaytambo, as it does not continue to Cusco, by the way. For some reason, they only switch the engine position and not the cars, which means the open balcony will now face the back of the locomotive on the return trip, which is anything but scenic. Inca Rail's 360-degree design is much different, as it uses a single car with about 5 meters of open space on either side. Again, you have to share your time in the 360 car with others, as well as a band, which I know when I've ridden on it, they played very loud, and when combined with the noise of the train, that means you're not going to be able to talk much easily to anyone. If the weather's cold, the swirling winds are strong inside, and it will quickly become quite uncomfortable. I haven't ridden it in the rain, but I can imagine that it just will not be possible, because the winds blowing the rainwater in and out of the windows is going to make it worthless. It's also a very small space with relatively small windows, so your opportunities to view much are minimal, especially on the last half of the trip between Ollantaytambo and Machu Picchu, when one side of the train faces a stone jungle wall inches away, meaning there's nothing to see on that side. That forces everyone in a tiny space to share one window on the riverside. While the views are gorgeous, it's going to be a fight to get any photos out the window. I found Inca Rail to be a little more lenient on people coming in and out of their 360 car, not like Peru Rail, which basically clears the cars out completely before the next car is allowed to enter. Okay, one more time. I cannot emphasize enough how much you absolutely need to schedule your Inca Trail hike with an agency absolutely as soon as you know when you'll be going. Prime days may already be beginning to be sold out, even though this is just the second day when tickets went on sale. Machu Picchu tickets themselves should also be bought as early as possible, because they often sell out 2 to 3 months in advance. The only other consideration is a bus ticket, which will take you from Aguascalientes up the mountainside to Machu Picchu itself. Those can be bought once you get there very easily and quickly from the office a short distance up from the bus departure point. It's easy to find, and there are signs pointing the way, and it usually takes you no more than a few minutes to get your bus tickets. Well, I hope that prepares you a little and makes it easier for you not to be concerned about doing it yourself. There are plenty of agencies which can do it for you, but every year there are lots of reports of money being taken, and when the visitor arrives, there's no one around in Cusco to help, and your money is gone. You'd be surprised how much that happens in Cusco. Even the legitimate companies often charge a significant commission to take care of everything for you. For some people, it's more than worth paying someone else to arrange everything, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. Just keep in mind that if you want to save money, it's easy to do everything yourself except for booking the Inca Trail, which has to be done through an agency. Okay, now I want to get caught up on the news. A couple of weeks ago, Machu Picchu underwent yet another major tourism crisis. Seems like they happen all the time, as a fight between two competing companies and their supporters resulted in train service being shut down for a few days. That left many tourists stranded in Aguascalientes and others unable to actually even get to Machu Picchu, for which they likely had spent an awful lot of money. The problem was over who actually had the right to operate bus transportation between Aguascalientes and Machu Picchu itself. There was violence, people and police were injured, and Peru's tourism industry took yet another major hit in the international press, with the sole reason behind it being greed, corruption, and incompetence. While it's still not completely solved, things right now are working smoothly as far as visitors are concerned for likely the rest of 2025. There is another process being undertaken right now to supposedly offer a transparent selection of who will receive this lucrative bus contract. Of course, at least as how us locals expect, there's already been some glitches. There was supposed to be a changeover to a new company, but as of this morning, only 4 of the 18 buses that have been sitting for several weeks to be transported have actually been moved on the special train cars. It was supposed to be 4 buses a day moved and would only take about a week, but for some reason things are moving very, very slowly. Fortunately, the previous company's buses are still operating because that company is still making money, and there's no problems getting a bus to take you up. The process of awarding the contract is actually supposed to take 4 months, which means it should be awarded at the end of this year or around the start of 2026. Since there was a lot of questions before, it's very possible that there will be issues when the new contract is finally officially awarded. There have been reports that the competing political factions each have members or relatives closely involved in the two companies. I'm talking financial involvement. So you can see that kind of corruption, and it's just kind of normal around here. To make things worse, the local governor and many politicians are pushing for complete local control of Machu Picchu in all aspects over the Ministry of Culture. While that may sound like a reasonable idea, there are literally massive amounts of money involved, and who controls it is a huge issue. As I said, especially in a country where corruption and graft are considered the norm in politics. The governor yesterday filed a lawsuit to force the ministry to give up control to local authorities, but there's no way to know how long that's going to take. It's certainly going to be an interesting fight around here, especially with presidential and congressional elections coming up next April. Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode and that you got some useful information from it. I always get frustrated by the social media experts who claim that they can tell you everything you need to know about visiting Machu Picchu, but in fact, they've only been once in their life and know almost nothing about visiting the site except for what they experience. For example, probably 99% of the YouTube videos are done by people who only care about you watching their video and not in helping. They make money by entertaining you, but they have little in the way of real knowledge, and they know that. Nothing to share except from their very limited experience. I've even seen 2 YouTube videos that were done by people who claim to tell you all about each of the different circuits that are available, and they've only been on 1 or 2 themselves and know absolutely nothing about the other trails. Okay, enough of that, at least for now. If you have any questions, please let me know with a comment in the show notes page. I love helping people, as this is what I do for fun because I love to share. Maybe one day I'll make some money at it, but I don't see that happening anytime soon, and I certainly don't make any money off all this right now. I've got some links to all the things I talked about in the show notes page that should help you finding where you need to go. And as always, thank you so much for listening, and I hope to see you in Peru soon.